Today I'm talking with Benj Haisch. He is a wedding and elopement photographer based out of the Pacific Northwest in the Seattle area. He's been doing it since 2007, and he has been around. He's shot all over the world. He has beautiful work. In addition to shooting weddings, he is always putting out inspirational wedding content on his Instagram channel, and also great educational content about cameras and gear on his YouTube channel, which I'll have linked in the description below. With that being said, we are going to share a story. There's a beautiful camera. Was that a family heirloom passed down?
I do have family heirloom ones, though.
We're going to talk about an experience which can hopefully help you guys in your process if you haven't already hired people. So let's paint the picture for me. We're going to talk about that wedding in Oregon at Bridal Veil Lake, I think it was.
We talk a lot, Craig and I specifically, as I'm a photographer, he's a videographer. We work together often. And just the idea of your vendors playing off of each other, and you are essentially creating like an all-star team, hopefully, right? And you want those teams to be cohesive. And I guess you can think of the planner or whatever as a coach, but you're kind of like little independent contractors running around trying to figure out how to work together. And if your style and if the way that you go about things and the experience you want to provide for your clients differs significantly from, how another vendor works and how they go about getting what they need for their clients as well, that can just run into a lot of issues. So for me, I am very experience-based. I want my couples to feel like they are acting as little as possible during the day. It's a weird day. It's an interesting day. It's an amazing day, but it feels odd, and I don't want my stuff to be another reason why it feels odd. So everything from posing to whatever, I'm trying to just do my job to be in the right places at the right time, so I'm not making them do a bunch of extra stuff. But then I've had times where I've had a group of 3, 4, 5, 6 videographers that I'm working with, and I don't even have a second photographer, and they want to set up every single thing like a scene. And so my idea of having them just experience a normal day as naturally as possible happens, and then they make them put on their shoes 3 more times. Or I had this one in particular where the couple I think they redid their first look 5 different times. They had to drive back up again. They had to do one with a drone. They had to do one with a steady cam. They had to do one with a locked off shot. You're doing a production at that point, which I am totally fine with. If a couple wants to have a production and have their thing be as cinematic as possible, and their experience on the day is to build to an end product that looks beautiful, that's totally fine. And I say go for it to those couples. But to me, that's a hindrance to the way that I work in trying to capture those moments as they actually happen. So, choosing people that either want it to be a production or want it to be an experience, and then finding some way to get all the things that you want at the end of the day and still enjoy the process as it goes.
If you're a couple and you're getting married, and say you find a videographer's work who you like, just know that you could have 2 videographers side by side. And if you work with this videographer, maybe their process is really intensive. And at the end of it, you feel like, gosh, you just maybe feel exhausted. Like Benj was saying, you're having to redo things. And in your mind, maybe you're like, I never thought I wanted to do that. I didn't get that. But that's what it takes for them to get the shots. That's what it takes for them to make the movie that you like. And so as you're looking at people, whether it's photography or videography, you have to look at it, and then you need to ask them, can we have a natural flow to our day, or are we stopping at huge segments so that you can create this unnatural, natural scene in this film? And yes, it's going to look amazing. I know the film you're talking about, and it's crazy. It comes with a lot of work and a lot of pressure on the couple too.
There's always trade-offs, and just figuring out what trade-offs you're willing to have is totally fine as long as you know the expectations of the day. So understanding how the experience, how another vendor goes about those interactions during the day is almost as important, if not more important, than the end result in many ways.
That's why there's a benefit in hiring a team that's worked together, because if they work well together, then they know how to work off of each other, and they're not having to try to figure out that on the fly.
The other thing about that is I find that if you find people that you work well together, you're also saving so much time, because the way that maybe the video team goes about their portrait time is the same way that a photographer goes about their portrait time. Because sometimes I have a time where I'll keep turning around to the videographer or the filmmaker and just go hey, do you guys want to do something? And they're like, nope, we're good. Everything you're doing is great. And there's other times where I turn around and say, hey, do you guys need to do something? And then they just do a whole another 10-minute thing that's completely different than anything I would ever do. And so you're just spending your time redoing different styles versus, doing something that's more cohesive with a group that works better together.
So you think about, say you just said I do at the wedding and the cocktail hour is starting and you're going to sneak away with the photographer and videographer for a little bit. And a lot of times I see couples, some couples are gung-ho and they're like, take as much time as you want. Other couples are very much like, they're getting a little tapped out at that point. They see all their friends and family at the cocktail and they know that's their one window to really engage them before dinner starts. And so what Benj is saying is like, say he shoots a certain way, but I shoot a different way. Benj is going to do his thing to get his shot so that he can give you what you want. And then I'm going to have to come in and say, gosh, the couple wants X from me, but the way Benj does it, I can't do that. So now I got to restart my process. And I was talking with a photographer about this. One way that I love to do that is part of the fun thing for me is working with new people or working with people who just work slightly differently, because then it allows me to get a little more creative in the process. And I kind of feel like a freeloader. When the photographer's like, hey, do you need anything? I'm like, no, like, I'm totally fine with what you're doing, and I'm fine if we're done in a couple minutes and the couple can get out of here. Like, I totally got what I need. And what I need is always kind of different. It's based on the couple, and I kind of let the photographer take lead on that, partly because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, symmetry is so much more important to them and how they frame something, and not that I want to downgrade framing on video, but I'm fine if they're not as centered or whatever it is, because the film's got to be just fine. And I'm not putting that pressure on the couple or the timeline of the day to grab that. Perfect example would be like not putting my camera down the center of the aisle. And often I look at that rear angle, I was like, gosh, I just wish I could get symmetry on that, but it's almost impossible to do it without throwing a wrench in somebody's thing.
I think there's times, I mean, this is a different subject altogether, but there's times where it's like a dance. We've talked about that before, where sometimes I'm up getting reactions to something, or, there's different times where we can occupy the same spaces. If, when one person's over here, then I can get this spot and vice versa. But especially as someone who I don't have remote cameras like video does, so I do have to occupy that center aisle quite a bit more, but it's not like the video team can't stand next to me as well or shoot in that same spot as well. And also just figuring out beforehand, doing a quick game plan right before the ceremony with the photo video team of like, hey, I'm normally here at this time. Normally I'm here. So you can know to like either not overlap or not step on each other's toes as much. And I'm trying to ask like, okay, usually I want this shot at this time. Is there any way that we can accommodate that? Is there anything you need? Vice versa. Because again, at the end of the day, we're all on team couple at that time. And try to make that work, you know what I mean?
I get a new jersey for every wedding.
Yeah, team couple. It's the all-star team every weekend. It's just a different all-star team. And so you have to figure out how to best make sure that every other vendor gets the things that they need the best way possible, and make sure that I'm communicating everything that I need so that I'm doing the job that I need to do as well.
Yeah, just to pull back the curtain a little bit too, what I do when I say I haven't worked with a photographer, even if I have worked with a photographer, I still want to know, because maybe they've changed a little bit. But just for ceremony, it's like, hey, how do you like shooting the processional, them coming in? Where are you going to be during ceremony? And then I ask, like, what are you doing when they exit? Do you go halfway up the aisle? Do you stay back? And then I tell them, I'm going to be like a creep hanging over your right shoulder. I hope I don't trip and fall. And then it's the same thing for all the other events. First look, how do you like to do it? Where are you going to be? Cool. Are you fine if I put this here? Is it in your way? If you aren't fine with it, please voice it to me, because I'm happy to move it and adapt. But these aren't things that, if you're looking to hire a professional, the best thing you could do is, I think 2 takeaways from this video would be so far is really think about what it takes for them to get that work. Ask them what it takes to get that work, and then decide if you're okay with it. And then on the flip side of that too, you're putting a team together that maybe hasn't worked together, or they have, and just ask them like, hey, how do you work with the photographer? Like, we're paying you to do your thing and we're paying you to do your thing, and you kind of have to do it at the same time. How accommodating are you? So things to think about when you're hiring above and beyond. Like, if you like the look of their photos, you might not be happy with what it takes to get it, or you might not like how they play on a team based on what you're hearing from them. And those could be red flags that you need to not ignore. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully it just added another layer of things to consider as you're trying to put together that perfect wedding for you. If you want to know more about Benj, be sure to check his stuff out. It'll be in the links description. He is an amazing photographer, and if you're looking for a videographer, I run Watertown Films. You can find my info in the link below as well. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully you'd enjoy.
Bye.